Today, I talk JCVD. In JCVD? Today, I talk 2008's JCVD. Next, on Drew Reviews. All right, guys, welcome back. This movie, 2008's JCVD, I thought should have helped resurrect Jean-Claude's fledgling action career at this point. He was so big in the 80s, clear up through the mid 90s, and then he started having some flops and some drug problems, some marital problems. Not going to get into any of that stuff, but his movies tended to go straight to DVD, and there were some decent ones in there. You've got The Order, Replicant was okay, Shepherd Border Patrol. This is in there with them. This was shot over in his native Belgium. It was kind of like the prodigal son coming home. He's a national hero over there. I'll get into the plot. This movie follows a very downtrodden Jean-Claude Van Damme, and he's having a custody battle with his ex-wife over his daughter, and he's needing money. He's having a hard time taking acting roles. At one point, his manager's like, "Oh, how about this one?" He's like, "We did that one 6 months ago." And how about this script? Have you read it? Well, I don't know. You're his manager. You don't know. Just got people like that handling his career. And he ends up going back to Belgium after this custody trial, which doesn't look like it's going to turn out well for him. And he gets there and he's completely tapped out of funds. And he was going to do this $6 million picture, of which he was going to get a $4 million fee. And he's like, it's going to be a crap movie, like 1.5 to the budget or whatever. And he turns it down, and then later when he finds out he's tapped out, he tells his agent, "Hey, I'll take it." And he's like, "Nah, sorry, it's gone. Steven Seagal took it, chopped off his ponytail." And so I like the fact there that you've got Van Damme referencing his rival and kind of having a little bit of fun with it. But he ends up going into this post office trying to get this wire transfer, ends up walking into what's essentially a bumbling bank robbery. There's these three guys, they're holding everybody hostage. He doesn't realize it's a bank robbery at first, and they end up taking him in. And as he's helping them blockade the door from the police coming in, one of the police officers sees him, and oh no, it's Jean-Claude Van Damme holding this place up. And oh, he was a national hero. And, this fall from grace in the media. I like that part of this movie, how it used his celebrity and kind of demonized him there. The way this movie's chopped up, every act is a very different part of this movie. The first act is kind of the view on the street of how this all transpired. The second act is kind of more inside the post office. And then the last act is kind of the resolution of everything. And so it's got that Pulp Fiction style editing to it. And I liked it in this case. It's very different for Van Damme. While I wouldn't call this movie fun, the opening sequences, you've got Van Damme on another low budget picture, and he's doing this single take shot. I read it was actually like 4 to 5 takes, but it's fairly seamless. You don't see the cuts in it. This single take action scene. And of course, that's been superseded here, especially with like Extraction 2, which just had a very seamless 21-minute, just straight single take action shot. But this was really impressive, especially when you consider Van Damme's like pushing 50 at this point in this movie. But after that, this movie turns to more of kind of like a drama. And it's more about his position in life at this point in his career. He's very down on his luck. He's losing his daughter. He has no cash. And he's back home with nothing. Right back where he started from. Acting-wise, I pretty well enjoyed everybody in this movie, with the exception of one that we'll talk about later. Van Damme's phenomenal in this. He is great as this downtrodden guy. The secondary actors in this movie are pretty good too. The commissioner, I'm not French. I'm going to butcher this name, but it's like Commissioner Bruges or something. All my French viewers are laughing right now, but I can't do that justice. But I thought he was pretty good. I like that scene where the guy's robbing the bank. They got this hostage situation, and they make Van Damme answer the phone, implicating him. And they're like, "What do you want, Jean-Claude?" And they start to tell him to ask for like $1 million, and he asks for like all these strange things, like he wants 457 grand in cash to pay his attorney fees and that kind of thing. And then they want to come in to kind of get this guy who's been shot out, and he's like, fine, but he makes them come in almost naked. They're in their underwear. But that was pretty funny. But yeah, Bruges, I really like him throughout this whole thing. The guys who are actually holding the hostages, there's one guy who's actually a Van Damme fan. They have this funny exchange where he's talking about John Woo and Hard Target. Uh, there's this really creepy guy, which he's got this receding hairline, but this long hair. It's almost like he's got a skullet. He kind of becomes the bad guy where he started as the heavy. But he was very good in the role. You hate him. You can't wait to see Van Damme spin kick him, which never happens. Just about everybody in this movie is pretty good, with the exception of the cabbie. This woman, she picks him up there at the airport in Brussels, and she's taking him down to the post office. There's this point where there's these guys on the street that are taking pictures with him. Oh, it's Van Damme! And there's a gunshot that comes out of the post office and shoots right through a window, almost shoots her in the head. And she does this, just over like 20 to 30 times. I honestly thought maybe that was a car alarm going off, oddly. But no, it was this lady screaming. It was just her pitch was the same with every scream. But it was ridiculous because nobody screams like that. That was awful. It's like at some point you got to stop and catch your breath. I hated that character. I wanted her to catch a stray bullet coming out of this post office. There were a couple other cons in this movie. If you're someone who doesn't like to watch dubbing, which I think this was actually shot in French, and they've dubbed American voice actors over the top of it, you're going to have a problem with it if you don't like that kind of thing. Me, I thought it was just fine. I thought it added kind of to the authenticity of the movie, being as he's from there. But even Van Damme, he's speaking French. Is it French they speak in Belgium? I'm assuming it is. Forgive my ignorance, but even he is dubbed in this thing with his actual voice over the top of it in English, and I thought it was fine. But if that's the kind of thing that drives people crazy, like my wife would absolutely hate this, so keep that in mind. The other thing about this movie, it suffers from what a lot of movies from like 2008 to 2012, 13 suffered from, and that's this monochromatic filter that they put over the movie. It's both good and bad, but to me it's good in the sense that Van Damme is very broken in this movie. And so everything's gray and kind of fits the mood. But at the same time, man, it's really like dark and silver looking, and it kind of got on my nerves at times. So, it's a pro and a con to me. But I got to talk about the monologue. Guys, with about 20 minutes left in the movie, Jean-Claude's, sitting there with the rest of the hostages. And he kind of steps outside himself. And they do this crane shot where he rises up and you can kind of tell he's on a movie set. And he goes on about his career and about his regrets. And at first it's like, I came to America with $3,000 and stole food and begged for a job. And I became this big star. And what has it brought me? And he breaks down in this scene, and it's the best acting I've ever seen Van Damme do in any movie. And this scene could have came across as hokey and just bad, but you really feel for Van Damme in this. He's bearing his soul to the audience and talking about all of his regrets and his screw-ups. When I say this should have been the movie that brought him back to prominence, and it did get a lot of accolades, but it didn't get him there, this is the scene I'm talking about. This in the beginning scene. The bank robbery stuff is okay if you're into like drama and there's some tension there, but the real reasons to watch this movie are the opening scene and this monologue. They're fantastic. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give JCVD a 7 out of 10. On IMDb, it's a 7 out of 10, and it's funny, I'm usually like a whole point higher than IMDb, but this is so high for a Van Damme film, I can't go a whole point higher. I think it's very good. I'm going to do a Van Damme top 10 ranking here fairly soon, and this is going to rank high. I don't know if it's going to make the top 10, but it's at least going to be an honorable mention because this film's fantastic. So guys, if you've not seen it, check out JCVD. It's unlike all the free streaming sites, talking Tubi and Pluto TV and Freevee and that kind of thing. So definitely worth an hour and a half of your time. Coming up next, I'm getting ready to shoot one for Command Performance with Dolph Lundgren. You know how I like JCVD and Dolph, so we're just going to stick in that lane for a while here through the holidays. So be on the lookout for that. Basically, Die Hard in a concert hall. So until then, guys, be sure to like, subscribe, all that stuff. Love all you guys out there. Stay safe through the holidays. As always, I'm Andrew. I'll see you down the line on the next Drew Reviews.